Hi, and welcome to Crafts with Ash. My name's Ashley, and today I am so excited to bring you some amazing DIYs in the Try It Tuesday challenge for May. So the point of this challenge is to try some DIYs that you watched other YouTubers create. So I chose 3 really neat crafts that I decided that I was going to recreate. So I want to thank Unicorn Dust Designs and Rebecca Virginia DIY for hosting and co-hosting this awesome challenge. I will have a link to both of their pages in my description box below, so please make sure to go check them out. If you haven't done so already, please do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, then hit that little notification bell so you can get notified anytime I upload a new video. Also, check me out on Facebook and Instagram for some behind-the-scenes content. All right, let's get started with these Try It Tuesday DIYs. So my first DIY was inspired from the Crafty Couple on YouTube, and this is actually the second DIY that I've tried of theirs. So they made this really neat wall vase with succulents, and I thought that I wanted to try it too. So I'm going to do a smaller version of this. So to begin, I used a cake pan and then this baking sheet, both items from the Dollar Tree. So I started by cutting out the middle section of the baking sheet to give me a smaller piece to work with. It was just easier like that. After I had it all cut out, I put it down at the bottom and I kind of positioned it where I wanted it to go. And then I made a crease by folding it over and cut out where my crease was. By using my hands, I just kind of rubbed over my piece. That way it kind of made it a little smoother and not so wrinkled. After that, I took some hot glue and simply hot glued my little aluminum piece down at the bottom of my cake pan. After it was all glued down, I did make sure to fold over any of the excess cookie sheet. That way it was a nice clean edge. After my wall vase was all set, it was time to paint it. So I cut off a little piece of a kitchen sponge, and now I'm going to galvanize this. Now, I love galvanizing stuff. I just think it's so fun to do, and it's so easy. It's like you can't do this wrong. So it's super simple. So all I did was dab some black acrylic paint all over the wall vase. Then I went in with some white chalk paint, and then I'm gonna go in with some gray paint. But basically, you just do this until you get the look that you love. While you watch me galvanize this wall vase, I just want to take this time to welcome you. If you are new to my channel, I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and I really hope that you love what you see. And if you're returning, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you so much for all of the support that you have given me over the last few months. My page has really grown, and I am so excited to share all of my DIYs, my decorating tips, my organizing tips, my party tips with all of you. So thank you. Now the gray color I used was Steel from Waverly Chalk Paint, and I just feel like this brought it all together. After my gray was on, I took some Waverly Antique Wax and gave it that rust look. After my vase was all painted, I did decide that I wanted to put a word on my vase. So I took this stencil from the Dollar Tree, and by using a makeup sponge and black acrylic paint, I started all the way to one side with the last letter first to spell out grow. And to clean up some of my word a little bit, I did go in with my black paint pen and just kind of retraced over them. Then I went ahead and just put some of that white and black and gray paint over the word so that the black was not so bold. Also, I want to note that I get so many comments that I am so behind. So if you commented on one of my videos, just know that I do read them all and I am working my way to reply to all of them. But thank you so much for being so amazing. After that was done, it was time to add some flowers to my wall vase. So the first thing I did was cut down a piece of foam and I stuck it into the inside of my vase. Now I am going to start off by putting a ton of flowers in here, but then off camera I actually switched them all out and added succulents because I decided that that was the look I kind of wanted to go for at the end. So I'm going to show you how I arranged all this, but just note when you see the pictures, it's going to be different. Now I did end up only adding one piece of foam right in the middle, and then I just kind of put all of the picks, the floral picks and everything around it. So it seemed to work out, so I really didn't worry about it. I did hot glue it down so that way it didn't come out. Then after my foam was in, it was time to add the flowers. So I basically just took anything I had in my stash and I just arranged it, but like I said, this is kind of pointless because I did change it all out for succulents, but I'll just show you it anyways. There's my little ladybug. Please don't forget that if you ever see a tool or a supply that I'm using that you maybe want to grab, all of the links are in my description box below, so that way you can check it out. So now it's time to add the florals. So I started off by adding these really neat yellow flowers. I do not remember what they are called, but I purposely bought these with this in mind because that's actually what the crafty couple had and I really loved it. So I just pulled some stems out and I just arranged them on the side so they would hang over. And of course I put them on the side that did not have the word. That way it didn't cover it. So this is what I did, and then I just kind of took some greenery and built up the back. I added these white flowers. Okay, so I didn't really show you everything that I added because I ended up changing it, but you get the point. After that, I went ahead and added some nautical rope so that way I can hang it. I did end up hot gluing a piece of ribbon over the nautical rope. That way it stayed down and wouldn't move. So after I switched out the flowers for the succulents, I absolutely loved how this came out. I think it is so farmhouse rustic and you just cannot get any more antiqued and old school and old fashioned than this, and I absolutely love this. The neat thing is that I didn't glue any of my succulents down or any of the flowers, so I could change it out for the seasons. So I am super excited to do that and I cannot wait to hang this on my wall. What do you think? For my next Try It Tuesday DIY, I was inspired by Crafts by Caitlin. I am absolutely positive you know who she is if you are an avid YouTube craft watcher, and she is amazing. But she made this little tea towel holder out of plungers, and I have always wanted one, so I knew I had to try it. So for this project, you're going to need a total of 3 plungers. And of course, the first thing you have to do is take off the sticker from every single one and the rubber part of every plunger. Once you get all of that off, I sanded down where the stickers were so that way it wasn't sticky and it was nice and smooth. After that, I took my miter saw and box and I cut off the ends because one end has this little corkscrew part and the other end is curved. So I wanted both ends to be completely flat. After that, I used that to measure the second plunger stick, and then I just cut that down so I had 2 plunger sticks that were the same size, and those are going to be the sides of our little tea towel holder. I love using this little miter saw and box because it has really opened the door for a lot of amazing DIYs, and it really upped my game. I'm able to do a lot more stuff. Now, I picked mine up at Lowe's. I think it was about $10 to $12, but there is a link in my description box below from Amazon if you want to grab one. It is so easy to use, and like I said, it really upped my craft game. So after I had 2 sticks the same size, I measured out how I wanted the little rods in the middle to go. But first, I thought it was easier to, again, cut off both ends. That way I can measure it accurately without having to count the ends in. Next, I used my ruler to find out where the middle was, and then I cut it down so I had 2 equal rods. After all my pieces were cut down, I sanded the ends so they were nice and smooth. After that, it was time to assemble it. So I laid out all of my pieces, all 4 of them, how I needed, and I also used a ruler to make sure that they were level on the bottom. Next, to glue it together, I used that Fix All adhesive glue from the Dollar Tree, which is kind of like a permanent glue, and then, a super glue, and then I used my hot glue for that instant hold. So again, I'm just doing the permanent hold and the instant hold trick. So I glued it all together, but you do want to make sure that on the bottom it's completely level so it stands up straight. There's where I use my ruler to make sure that it is level. I actually do have a level. I need to try to find where that is. My craft room is a mess. Anyways, after that, I took my hot glue and filled in any of the gaps that were showing, and then after that was dry, I flipped it over and did the same thing. Now, Caitlin actually used liquid nails to put this all together, so you can use any adhesive that you feel will be strong enough to hold for a long time. After all my glue was dry, I gave this a coat of white Waverly chalk paint. Now, I am going to end up distressing this, so I didn't really mind if any of that natural wood was showing through, so I kind of gave it a messy coat. Once my paint was dry, I took my sanding block and I sanded down some of the areas on my little tea towel ladder. And then I went in with my Waverly Antique Wax and my favorite distressing brush, and I just kind of distressed it a little bit more. Now, on the parts that got a little bit too much wax, I did go over it again with my white chalk paint and then my sanding block, and I just kind of did this until I got the look that I wanted. I absolutely love this. Like I said, I have always wanted one of these little tea towel holders, and I actually bought something like it from Target a few years ago, but it was actually too tall to fit underneath my cabinets in my kitchen. So I definitely wanted to measure this and make sure that this would fit, and it does, and it's perfect. And again, this is something out that you can change for every season. You can put different towels and accessories on it, so it is really going to be so fun to use. But what do you think? Try It Tuesday DIY, I got my idea from Whiskey and Wit, and she is so creative. So my sister had actually asked me to make her a summer sign to hang on her door. So I searched YouTube and her channel came up with this sign, but she needed it to be round. So I'm going to be combining two of her ideas, and I'm going to be using the concept that she used for this little popsicle garland, but I'm going to make it look like that Hello Summer sign that I just showed. I hope that makes sense. So to begin, I took this round sign that I got from the Dollar Tree and I flipped it over and took off the sticker on the back by using my hair dryer and my little scraper. After that, I gave this a really good coat of Waverly chalk paint in white. Once my paint was dry, I took this ruler that I always say I purposely bought because it's the perfect width for faux shiplap, and I started in the middle and just started drawing lines to make it look like faux shiplap. So I just did this until my entire sign was covered with all of these lines. Then to make it all blend, I used my finger and went over all of the lines to kind of smudge it so that way it looked more realistic. Then after I did that, I took my brush that had the Waverly chalk paint on it. I did not re-dip it. I just used whatever was on the brush and just went over the lines to dull it down just a little bit. So to make the popsicles, I'm going to be using these dominoes just like Whitney did over on her garland, her patriotic popsicle garland. So I counted out 6 because I'm going to be spelling out summer. And what I did was I just kind of measured down a little bit so I can cut off the bottoms to give it more of that popsicle shape. So once I cut one down, I used that as a template to cut down all of the rest. Now to cut these down, I did start off by using these miter shears, but I realized that scissors work just fine because it is so soft, it cut really easily. After they were all cut down, I used that sanding block and sanded the edges, that way they were nice and smooth. I just want to take this opportunity to remind you to give this video a thumbs up if you're loving what you see. That really helps my channel to grow, and not only that, but it tells YouTube that you love watching my stuff and you want to see more. So don't forget to hit that like button. After they were all sanded down, it was time to paint. So I started off by using this pink Parfait apple barrel paint, and I painted one of them with that. And I'm going to quickly go through this. You can use whatever colors you want. You can even do red, white, and blue and make it a patriotic sign. The possibilities are really endless with this. Then for the second one, I used bright yellow from apple barrel. Then for the third one, I just used some orange acrylic paint. I was really trying to go for bright colors. I really wanted the sign to be very summery and fun. Then for my fourth popsicle, I used a lime green paint. And you can also just use whatever is in your stash. For my fifth little popsicle, I used a turquoise blue paint. And don't forget, you also want to paint the edges and the bottoms of all of your popsicles too. Then for my last little popsicle, I used a purple paint. So then once I had all of my popsicles painted and they were dry, it was time to apply the letters. Now for this, I used this stencil that I got from the Dollar Tree, and by using my black acrylic paint and a makeup sponge, I spelled out summer, putting one letter on each of the little popsicles. Now, something I did to make sure that all of my letters were lined up was I kept comparing it to the one that I did before. That way, they were all even. Now to clean up the edges of my letters, I did go in with a black Sharpie and just kind of traced around it. Once all my popsicles had the letters on, it was time to add the little popsicle sticks. Now I happen to have these skinny popsicles that I just had in my stash. My mother-in-law actually gave them to me, so I'm not quite sure where they came from. But all I did was cut 3 of them in half. Then I hot glued them to the back of my popsicle. Then by using that as a template, I went ahead and hot glued the rest of them on the popsicles as well, but you want to make sure that all of your sticks are even and lined up at the bottom. After I had those all glued down, I lined them up on my little board. Now I did not hot glue them down at this point. Next, I took these big black letters that I got from the Dollar Tree and I spelled out hello right on top. Now I realized as I was doing this that I did not have an H, so I just used 2 eyes and then cut down a little piece for the center. So after I had all my letters down, I made sure that they were all even, and I actually just put the bottom on one of my little shiplap lines. And then after that, I pushed them down once I knew that they were where they needed to be. Next, I went ahead and I hot glued all of my little popsicles down. Now to do this, I actually ended up using super glue and hot glue because this is going to be on my sister's front door and I don't want the sun to melt the hot glue. So I would definitely recommend putting E6000 or that fix-all glue or some kind of glue other than hot glue to hold these down. After that, to protect my letters and my paint, I put a coat of Mod Podge over the entire thing. Don't forget that all of the links to these crafters that I am trying, their creations, they will all be down in the description box below so you can check out their channels and the videos where these inspirations came from. While that was drying, it was time to make a bow. So the bow I'm going to make is called a messy bow and actually also a refabbed bow, and I got this idea from Brooke over at Refabbed. Now she is more present on Facebook, so you definitely want to check her out. She has a great bow tutorial. I am not great at bows, so I am not going to spend a lot of time on this, but basically all you want to do is cut off strips of ribbon that you want to use, and then you're going to put them in an X. Now I ended up after this finding brighter ribbon at the Dollar Tree, so in the picture you're going to see different types of ribbon, but this is basically all you do. You just lay them out in an X and you just kind of mix and match and mix them up, and then after that I took some twine to put in the middle and gather it all together. Now when I put my twine in the middle, I did tie it in the back and then wrap it around several times. That way the lime green was more bold because I felt like it would pick up the lime green in my popsicles. And then I actually brought it to the back and tied it, but I made sure to have some excess in the back because that's what we're going to put through the hole to hang it. After that, I took the pieces of twine that were left over and I looped them through the hole and I pulled it really tight. Then I'm going to use my scissors to go ahead and cut all of these ribbons down and make them look all proportional. After that, I brought it through and I hot glued it to the back, and I used one of my leftover pieces of ribbon to put down for extra support. Then at the top of my extra twine, I tied a knot, and that's going to be the hanger for our little sign. I did use some hot glue to put on the knot so that way it did not unravel, and then I also tacked down the bow with some hot glue as well. After making some final cuts, my sign was complete. My sister absolutely loved it and she cannot wait to hang it on her wreath. I made her a natural looking or neutral looking wreath, and she can actually switch out the sign for the season, and it's super easy to do, and she is very excited. So I want to thank Whitney over at Whiskey and Wit for this great idea. Now personally, I would have distressed this just a little bit, but my sister loves clean lines. But what do you think? So this last one is not a Try It Tuesday. This is kind of a bonus DIY. I made this really cute teacher gift and I really wanted to share it with you, but didn't have another video to put it in. So here we go. So first I started off with this arrow sign, and it's for a wedding, and it said reception on it. And I just painted the top with white Waverly chalk paint. After that was dry, I took this pink parfait and I painted off a rectangle at the end. We're going to paint this to look like a pencil, so this is going to act as the eraser part. So I went ahead and I actually gave this 2 coats because, as you can see, it's not really covering the white. So I painted that, and then after I was done with the pink, I took my silver metallic paint and painted just a little strip in front of that as the metal part of the pencil. Next, by using my paint marker, I drew where like the lead would be, and then I drew some sharpening lines, like where you would sharpen a pencil. That way I knew where to paint the yellow. After that, I took my bright yellow paint and painted the actual pencil part of this sign. After that was dry, I traced over my black line again, and then I colored in the tip of the lead. Now I did actually end up extending this so the lead was just a little bigger, which you'll see in just a little bit. After that was all painted, I took some light brown paint and I painted the top part of my pencil. Here is where I decided to extend the lead part of my pencil, and then I'm going to trace over the little zigzag line one more time to make it more distinct. After that, I took a lighter color yellow, and this is Maize from Waverly Chalk Paint, and I took this round sponge brush, I guess, or stencil brush, and I just put some polka dots all over the yellow part of my pencil. Once that was dry, to add more detail, I took my white paint marker and just made some stitching marks around each of my polka dots. After all that was dry, it was time to add my letters, and I'm going to put my daughter's teacher's name. So I started with the R in Mrs. up top because it is the middle, but I just used these stencils to draw it out. Now I did not go in and just paint them on because I did not trust it. And because I'm giving this as a gift, I want it to be near perfect. So I just went ahead and traced them out first, then I used a Sharpie marker to color it all in. And to add that final touch, I put some stitching marks around the entire thing except for where the brown and the black were at the tip of my pencil. Now, I also made sure to put a layer of Mod Podge over this once all of this dried. That way it protected all of the paint. But I absolutely love how these came out. I ended up making 3 because she has 3 different teachers. And I don't know what their reaction was. We already gave them to them, but I hope they love them. But this was something super simple to make. I also gave them a gift card to Dunkin' Donuts so that way they can enjoy that as well. But I just wanted to share this idea with you so you could try it and give it to your teacher. What do you think? I absolutely love how all of these Try It Tuesday DIYs and that little teacher pencil gift came out. I think they are so fun and so colorful. I definitely think my favorite, well, it's actually a tie. It's got to be the towel holder or the first little wall vase we made right there because I just love how rustic they are. And like I said, my sister is so excited to put that Hello Summer sign on her wreath to welcome in summer to to her home. You're going to have to let me know in the comments which one was your favorite and if you're going to try any of these DIYs. I want to thank Whiskey and Wit, the Crafty Couple, and Crafts by Caitlin for giving me the inspiration to make all of these. Don't forget their links will be in the description box below. Also, special shout out and thank you to Sammy at Unicorn Dust Designs and Rebecca Virginia DIY for hosting and co-hosting today's Try It Tuesday challenge. As a reminder, if you haven't done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, then hit that little notification bell so you can get notified anytime I upload a new video. Well, until I see you again, I'll craft with you soon. Bye!